Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday night here on Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum, our longest running campaign by quite some way. We're running through the Throne of Thorns campaign, the official campaign for Symbaroum, and we're on volume 2 of it. Not that you'd know it from the copious amount of other stories and bits and pieces we've done. But yeah, part 2, Witchhammer. We are some way through it. It remains to be seen how much, but probably way less than you'd maybe expect, given I'm going to throw even more additional things into it because I am a sucker for punishment. But if that's true, what does that make my players? That's what I ask you. So let's get some pesky promo out of the way before we start introducing them. If you check down below this video, you'll find a bunch of links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching on one of those sites. Please do check out the other one. Twitch is where you can see everything live. That's where, well, we are streaming right now in this point in time. But you may be at a different point in time watching the video in archive form on YouTube. And all of our streams do end up on YouTube sooner or later, so there's a lot to watch on there. Loads of systems, loads of stories, loads of different crews and combinations of people. So please take a look at that if that sounds interesting to you. There's also links to our Patreon, our social media, our Discord. If those are things that interest you, check them out. We run 2 ongoing campaigns at the moment, Vason on Mondays and Symbaroum on Wednesdays. And we also do one-shots, sort of once a month, but kind of twice a month at the moment. The next one of which is this Saturday, where we'll start at 3 in the afternoon BST, and we're revisiting Dungeon World. There's an older Dungeon World one-shot, if you want to check that out. That's on YouTube. And then at the end of April, we'll be playing Goblin Quest for the first time, which is something I know a lot of us have been looking forward to for quite some time. Yes, there we go. Lovely. All right, let's start bringing people on and doing recaps and all sorts of exciting things like that. So we're going to start off today by bringing on Stephen. Hello, Stephen.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Fancy seeing you
Stephen.
here.
It's a shock, as much of a shock to me as it is to you. Stephen plays Elindra, former Templar novice turned adventurer undergoing some kind of crisis of faith. So, Witchhammer so far, thoughts?
I haven't seen enough hammers to know which hammer yet. So we're off to a great start, aren't we? Yeah.
Now you know how I feel every single week.
Yeah, it's I guess this is Elindra's first real foray into Davokar, right? And it's been a few months now since she's seen Civilization. I don't think she's got used to it yet. But yeah, so I guess you want to know how he got here, right?
Kind of, yeah.
So
I mean, I know, but
there's this mythical place, right, called Symbar, which is a kind of city at the heart of an ancient civilization. It is like El Dorado, essentially, to any self-respecting Ambrian treasure hunter. We got wind of a lead that might point towards its location. We heard about a woman called Elmendra who claims to know where it is shortly before disappearing. And the party, I think it's fair to say, we're sort of split between wanting to rescue Elmendra for her on behalf of her friend who is very worried about her, and possibly also just wanting to follow the clues and see if there's a payday at the end. And the party are being delightfully dishonest with each other about what their actual motivations are. But in pursuit of this,
I'm very much looking forward to that inevitable kind of, not necessarily violent, but like that. That's going to be an interesting day, to quote Jane Cobb.
The day that we all have to kind of like put our cards on the table about why we're really doing this. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we like in service of this quest, there were like 3 places that we know that Elmendra went to and gathered information that led her to this conclusion that she knows where Symbar is. We went to the first one that we visited was west up the River Malgamore, was a settlement called New Earthmore, where all manner of shenanigans happened, but we learned some information about the tunnels underneath Carvosti and picked up a few adventuring friends along the way, in the form of Degesto and his band, and we've kind of teamed up with them. Headed back down the river and taken another diversion north to the second place where we think there might be clues, which is as it turns out, really quite vast ancient ruined settlement by the name of Fria Ligan. And we're just dipping our toes into that now.
Just dipping your toes into this ruin, absolutely. Okay, then let's intro the other players, and then I'll give a very quick rundown of what happened last session, and it won't take too long because last session was dominated by one particular event. But next up, it's John. Hi, John.
Hi, Matt.
John is busy switching to John's artwork for John. That's confusing. John plays Sir Arendar, last remaining member of House Dar, duelist, owner of a lovely cat, and I'd have to say probably the conscience of the group overall, or at least joint conscience.
Does anyone ever really own a cat?
No. Moving on. So there we go. And as we move on, you know what? I'm also going to try a new layout that Steve has put together for us. So let's see how well this works with not having 6 cams on. Okay, so it adds them all on one side. That's cool. That's fine. That's cool. Yeah, if you're watching, Steve, we love this new view. So we're going to make extensive use of it. Okay, let's bring on our next player, which is going to be Chris. Chris plays Steo, former infantryman and city guard, turned sellsword and adventurer. Yeah, how is Chris and how is Steo?
Can't believe I've been sent over here on my own.
Nah, Billy, no mate.
So, in answer to your
That's
question,
right.
Chris is lonely and isolated. But Steo actually, I suppose we'll come to the recap of this session, but for reasons that might be obvious to anyone following the kind of meta plot, Steo is deeply relieved right now.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
Sorry, could we get Steo's art? Thank you.
Sorry, I was too busy pointing and laughing at him.
It's an important job.
Something we can all get behind. And why is Steo relieved?
Well, Steel's relieved because, spoilers for the next part of the recap, but a load of elves have just shown up, and Steo being one of the 2 members of the party who are tangentially involved with the Iron Pact, the group trying to make Davokar safe by not letting Ambrians poke around in the cursed objects bin, is trying to figure out what he should be doing in this situation, because Steo doesn't really want anything to do with Symbar.
Absolutely. And next we have someone who may or may not want something to do with Symbar. It's hard to get a read on this guy. I mean the player and the character. It's Mike, who plays Father Anton, the resident Theurg, priest of Prios, and kind of more healer now than he has been before, with extra healing powers.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Doing good. Anton is sort of doing all right. We've had a big old fight, but everyone's escaped mostly unscathed from it.
Mostly unscathed. Physically, anyway. Well, I say that. Plenty of people were really torn up, and several people were. Well, we'll find out in a second when I do the recap. Won't we?
Some people were a bit scathed.
We're a bit scathed. Let's bring on our final player. Let's bring on Sam. Sam plays Askarai, our resident changeling, ranger, scout type individual, handy with a bow, handier with a mask. It's it's Askarai.
Not sure how handy the mask has actually been, but I'll take it.
More facey, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could put spikes around the edge and kind of take it off and
True. Or just headbutt people.
Just have
Must
put a
be.
big spike on the front of it.
But yeah, must be some kind of rules for that.
You know there aren't. There's no rules for putting a spike on a mask and driving it into people's faces.
Yeah.
I think that the rules for headbutts are in the whatever it's called, the dirty fighting thing. I think the level 1 is a headbutt. So
Nice.
Yeah, I believe it's called gutter kiss.
a gutter kiss,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then adept is the goblin squeeze, which we have discussed before, and which Father Anton has experienced.
Time
So
to.
if you've got like a spike on your head, is that like a gutter kiss with tongues or something? I'll stop.
Moving incredibly swiftly on from what has happened to us. So let's give a quick recap of last time. Essentially, what we had was the party arriving at Fire Maroon, kind of negotiating the swamp that sort of led up to it to the south, moving around this vast, crumbling, ruined palace. You came around to the front and you saw that at least part of the ruins must be infested by Davokar creatures called Fey beasts, essentially sort of nasty, slightly hyena-like canines with some feline features and a particular habit of biting people with a kind of paralyzing venom and then eating them alive. You were having none of this, so you marched straight into their den with no preamble whatsoever. And we're just like, I'm sure we can take down 30 of these. You know, you didn't do badly, and I think it's still possible you might have won. But basically, you did enough damage to after a few people being paralyzed and put out of the fight in various ways. Because there's a larger group of you now. There is this group of players here. There's also a couple of NPCs with them. And then there's DeGesto and his little group of fortune seekers as well. And you did all right. You managed to make the original kind of group of Fey beasts sort of break and sent a number of them fleeing into the ruins. But then more came pouring out from a side room. I think it's still possible you might have still won against them, maybe with some losses. But it turns out you didn't have to, because at the moment the Fey beasts came pouring out of that side room, they were filled full of arrows by a group of mysterious elves stood behind you at the entranceway to Far Maroon, led by this solemn-looking individual here. I do have an image because I am handy like that of what the other elves would look like if you wish to kind of see more of a standard elf. This is an image that a few of you have seen before because I used it for the very first elf you encountered. But that is sort of the standard look of elves, kind of like quite, speaking of feline features on the Fey beasts, the elves themselves have a kind of feline cast to their face, very pale with those dark eyes. Yeah, and that's what the others of them looked like. Did I say how many there were? Because I will happily tell you how many there are. There are... Maybe I can tell you that. Blah. See, this is the thing. When you give out numbers of groups and you say it's equal to the player characters, right? Do I count the NPCs? I think I do count the NPCs.
But it says
That's why I do. Yeah, but you got other fighters with you, so it's not fair.
Yeah.
That's what I have been doing. That's why there were so many Fey beasts. And in the end, I think it was a decent fight because there were so many of them. I think if you're carrying NPCs round with you as ballast / shields, then the number of enemies just needs to increase to compensate for that. So I'm going to say that you can count 11 elves. Not including this fellow here. There we go. That's what we're picking up, folks. The elf had just looked at you and said that you shouldn't have come here, in a soft voice that carried around this formerly Grand Entrance Hall of Faramir.
Theo is probably going to actually emit an audible sigh of relief.
Is anyone still like paralyzed on the floor or like unconscious?
I'm happy saying that people like the fortune hunters and people who were a bit paralyzed, and I think Ferrin was also paralyzed, right?
Elindra
Yes.
was down for another 5 rounds, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the just introductory encounter is.
I'd say
on
if the count was relatively low, like 1 or 2, then people are already picking themselves up. And if it's a bit further than that, then people are like groggily rolling around on the floor and kind of being helped up by other people.
Cool.
So that would be Elindra in that case, right? That's what. Yeah. Let's say the Revelia is kind of trying to pick you up, and you're sort of coming to again. Well, not coming to. You were completely conscious,
just unable to move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also picking Farron up.
So I
That
think
sounds-
I think I might go over to the elf then, in a very kind of like I said, quite relaxed. Theo will kind of take a few steps forward and probably say something like, "We are at least tangentially aware of the dangers of this place, but we are aware that someone awoke something here in search for a key to a much more dangerous door that I and my colleagues are trying to close."
The elf sort of slowly turns to you and kind of fixes you with an utterly unreadable, expressionless stare that probably leaves you feeling a bit sort of uncomfortable. Humans don't really look at each other like this, or if they are, they're probably about to hit each other. And says, "We are observing the one who has been freed. There is no need for you to be here. We will not fight you, but you should take my advice." Anyone, I think Steo's probably, because you said you walked up to this elf, so I think you're kind of focused on him. Everyone else who isn't busy, I'd say probably not Elindra, probably not Arendor. So let's just say Antom and Ascarai as the 2 people who aren't helping people up and are watching far back enough to watch this go on. Antom and Ascarai, can you give me a vigilant roll, please? And can you please modify that by an exciting... nothing. Very exciting.
The most
Very exciting.
Yeah, I made it.
I make it.
Okay. Amongst the other elves, there is another individual who looks a little different from the others. Perhaps he's dressed in a little more elaborate fashion. Her weapons look slightly more kind of well crafted than the others. She glances over at the main elf who has spoken as he says that they will not fight you, and anyone who, so was it just Ascarai who succeeded?
I think both of us.
Both of you succeeded. She looks very, very unhappy with the elf talking to Steo.
Asgard is going to keep his weapons very much on hand while this conversation is going on. But was also like, I don't know how close Steo has gotten, but we'll move forward a bit to join Steo.
Sure.
What?
You could be kind of flanking him.
what advice do you have to give other than to leave? We've come to this place for a purpose, and we don't intend to leave with empty hands.
You need to examine why you come to such places. Why you have chosen to set foot in this forest. To come to the places of the past where nothing can be found but corruption and death. The ones who came before you, they woke the beast. Then others came and enraged the animals here still further. I do not know why this ruin has such a lure for your kind. But your presence here needs to stop.
I can at least tell you why. Someone has allegedly found a path to the city, the great city, and has acquired a hammer, which is apparently key to accessing it. We are not here as petty looters, not now and nevermore.
All of the elves' eyes flick to you. We will speak more of this later. I advise you to make your camp outside of the ruins. Other animals will be called. Surely you have heard the voice, the singing. It is not safe within these walls.
We will definitely take that advice.
He kind of turns on his heel and indicates for the others to also leave. The one who looked unhappy looks again very unhappy and is shooting you specifically, Steo, a distrustful stare. But finally she too turns and starts walking away. They appear to be walking towards the tree line.
When they're out of earshot, Astra will say to Theo, "You are too open with those people. We cannot trust them."
Honestly, Ascry, I feel more like trusting them than basically anyone else I've met so far.
That is a bad mistake, in my opinion, in my experience of elves. Not to be trusted.
Well, let's see if we can pick up. Has everyone else stood up again? Steve will kind of wander around and double check.
I think everyone is pretty much up now. DeGesto was paralyzed, right? And as he's sort of like clambering back to his feet, he's kind of leaning on a couple of his fortune seekers as he does so. And he kind of peers out after the elves and then looks up at Eustio and says, "Closing a door?"
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of dangerous crap in this forest. Some of it is better left buried. Plus, for the record, it didn't say which side of the door we were going to be on when it closed.
All right. But you know I am going under Carvosti to find Symbar.
I think we're
And
all
then
going
I'm
under
going to
Carvosti.
Symbar. And you're not intending on stopping me from finding Symbar?
No. I'm intending on making sure it's very difficult for anyone else to find it, though.
I could live with that. If that's the plan.
Can't put the genie back in the bottle, mate. All I can do is try and keep as many people alive as possible.
Are you telling the truth to DeGesto?
I am telling the truth there. Maybe I'm telling it very carefully worded, but I am not. I'm not like I. My intention is not to mislead the guest.
Okay.
If
Okay,
it helps,
that's fine.
Aaron is going to be standing by, nodding with earnest and wide eyes.
Okay. There we go then. In that case, your party is, it's early afternoon still. I mean, the fight against the Fey Beast didn't take more than, maybe 10 minutes or so. You are stood in this. Shall we have a quick reminder of the old. Oh, God. I really wish I could do multiple share screens. StreamYard, please. Get on that. That would be good. Multiple share screens at once would be useful. So, because every time I bring up the map and I need to switch to art, I have to switch what screen I'm sharing and stuff like that. But there we go. Maybe on the left is better for this one because it makes it a little bit bigger. No. Oh, no.
When you have the window selected, if you press tab, I think it will get rid of the interface and make it slightly more zoomed in.
Ooh. Press tab, you say?
On Critter, not on StreamYard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
There you go.
nice.
And you can
Like it.
zoom in by holding down Control and using your scroll wheel.
Oh, that's too complicated. That'll be difficult. So the map, as you can see it then, as you can see, it had that kind of entrance area, and now you're in what is essentially a kind of entrance hall held up by columns. There is an open passageway to the west that seems to lead to some kind of circular room that perhaps was the base of a tower back when the walls extended way above their current level. On the other side of the room is what appears to be a very large bronze door, which is definitely shut. And ahead of you are a number of open it's a passageway into another what seems to be maybe a larger chamber, but it's not doors. It is huge, maybe what were once arches but are now just kind of gaps in the wall, as the top of them have crumbled, and all the walls are covered in vines and moss and various growths. DeGesto sort of gestures that he's happy for you to take the lead.
I think the start of Astra is he wants to try the door, the bronze door, but first he's going to take a look. He's remembered that some certain doors we tried to open that have nearly killed us. So he's going to take a look to make sure this door is not going to kill him, and then we'll just see if it opens.
Absolutely. I would like you to roll vigilant, and it's probably a vigilant at -3. That's not an indicator that there is a trap on here. That's a general thing I'm going to use for environments within Symbaroum because it's the walls are tall enough and the winter is only closely just gone enough that it's not the lightest in here, and also everything is overgrown. So it's quite difficult to get a reading on these things unless you clear them out first. So I'm going to say a vigilant at -3, please, Ascari.
Okay, I need a 13. I rolled a 17, so I fail.
Yeah, you got no idea.
I'm going to try the door.
Okay. Yep. This door is locked or blocked or something. It's not outside the realms of possibility that you might be able to get it open. Certainly, or maybe someone stronger than you might be able to get it open. But from an initial just kind of rattling it and trying to get through it, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Which way did the elves leave, Matt?
They left out the front door, not a doorway, a doorway. Yeah,
to the north.
Yes, correct.
Okay. I think Elendra is going to turn to the others and say, just so I understand, Steo told the elves that we were going to leave, but we're not going to leave, are we?
I don't think he said that.
Okay, well,
you were going to leave, or is that what Elindra is?
That was. I mean, whilst recovering from paralysis, like they
Sure.
seemed fairly insistent that we should leave, and like there didn't seem to be any resistance to that idea.
Well, we're not going to leave. We might camp outside, which is what they seemed more adamant on, but we've come here. We've come all this way.
We're going to leave, my friends. We're just not going to leave right now.
That's fair.
Okay.
Is there anything around which like has like symbaric symbols on it or anything like that? Any markings or indications of significance beyond what you've already described?
Nothing. You think there is pitting and scarring where once there was things like that, but realistically, this place is so crumbling and overgrown that it's very difficult to get a reading on anything like that. Certainly not within this chamber, as far as you can see now.
Okay. I might just wander over to the doorway to the circular chamber room and have a poke my head in there.
Yeah, that was I'm going to follow because that was my kind of interest as well.
Absolutely. Just so we know, the doors to deal. There are multiple ways you can try and deal with the doors. They're not just you're not going this way. But you probably already knew that anyway. But I thought I'd put that in place. Anton and Steo, you wander over to this circular chamber and duck your heads in. You can see that there is another passageway. Looks to be maybe slightly curved on the other side of the chamber, leading west.
Nothing within the actual circular chamber itself.
No, nothing. It's more or less identical to the room you're just in, apart from having, obviously, in every way. It's identical apart from every way in which it's different, which is so many, in that it's smaller and rounder and has no columns. But I mean, the general makeup of it, the overgrown walls and the scarred and rubble-covered floor and things like that.
Sure.
Might be worth a quick excursion down this way, see if we can loop back to the main room.
And obviously to the south, there's those entrances to what seem to be a much larger chamber. So.
Yeah. I think that we'll maybe wait to see what everyone else wants to do first.
Oh, I don't mean split up. I mean, my vote is take this path.
The consideration here is that we know that we are among a later group of people to have visited this place. So any doors that are closed, presumably are doors that those individuals did not pass through.
Or could not pass through. I think we'd take a look. We'd take a look. I mean, we are here to look at a locking mechanism, aren't we? It would be very convenient if it was the first locking mechanism on the right.
Or they could be doors that the elves have closed behind them.
Potentially.
We have to pick a direction. That seems as good a one as any. I think there's some merit in the idea that the path of least resistance through here may well be the preferable one, given the number of people that have been through here already. If those people left, it's because they found what they'd come for.
Oh, that's some logic. I like it. Shall we take the wiggly path? We can look at the lock later.
I'm okay with that.
Let's do that.
Yeah, is that the idea? Okay.
I'm happy with that.
You'll have to bear with me with these things because obviously I've got to. Every time you make progress, I have to do a bit of the old layer erasure.
It's like we go into the round room and the door's shut like an airlock until the next area streams in.
Yeah, exactly.
I just feel that if we're going to be lifting anything strange or unusual here, don't tell me about it because I don't want to try lying to those elves.
Okay.
Why would we lie to them? If we take something, we can tell them we've taken it. He said he's not going to fight us.
They said they're not going to fight us for being here.
They said they're not going to fight us, and they're elves.
They hit very hard. I've seen them melt another person, like actually melt them, as though they were cheap copper.
Right, so you folks have dealt with elves more than I have, but one thing I consistently hear from people that have dealt with elves is that they're not to be trusted. So if they say they're not going to fight us, that's not necessarily a reassurance.
It is what I assume, Stephen, just for everyone's awareness, the absolute, call it propaganda or partly based on truth or whatever, Ambrian's general opinion of elves is extremely low. They are murderous inhumans who live in the forest.
Sure. Elimdra's an Ambrian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are you having this conversation as you're going through this passageway, I assume?
Yeah.
It's a short corridor which leads you out to a rectangular room. The first few steps of which are a kind of like slightly crumbling, the same sort of pale stone floors you've been in so far, and the rest rapidly has sort of like crumbled down into a lower floor that at some point in the past has become submerged. The water does not look deep. It looks maybe 2 to 3 feet at its deepest. On the far west side of the room, there is a doorway leading further west, and on the south, a doorway leading south. That's what those mean. I don't need to say that twice. But there we go.
Oof. Look, ever since the sinkhole, I've been very suspicious of disturbing elven water.
I wouldn't want to disturb it myself, but
So we
try something in, see if anything reacts.
It's worth noting that the water is slightly muddy. It's certainly not crystal clear, but it's mostly from what looks like dust and some soil and some detritus that's fallen off the walls. It definitely looks like, when you came in here, you can see on the map there, like you had to wade across a sort of shallow stream to get to the front. You can see it on the map. It is the same stream water that's soaked through the foundations at this point. You are free to do your checks, but from where you're standing, it doesn't look deep or opaque enough to have things lurking in it.
Unless anyone stops him, Masquerade's just going to throw a random loose rock into what looks like a deeper part of it and see if anything happens.
I'd say that the deepest...
When I did that, I got shouted at.
Well,
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Sometimes you just have to live with being shouted at, Aaron. It's just the nature of things.
You throw it to the deepest part, which is sort of the southeast part of the room. There's a plopping noise and ripples and nothing else. It's probably quite cold, though.
I'm not against trying this way if needed, but why don't we go through the dry passage first and see what's in the large chamber?
Let's see if we have choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's make Matt do more erasing. That's what we mean.
Oh, yeah.
This is very exciting.
Ooh, live erasing.
Oh, can you see that? Oh, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, we haven't taken it away yet.
Oh, God. I definitely should take it away first because I might fuck up. You know what? Let's have a standard for this because this is going to happen a lot in Faramarion. As you can see, the map is big and quite complex. Let's find time for little bits of role playing by whenever Matt's erasing, you're conversing or interacting in some way. Shall we say that to take the pressure off me to do it super fucking fast? So there we go. Go.
Remember, if you see anything, that looks like it might be treasure, and I'm directing this to Elendra more than anyone else, do not touch it immediately with your bare hands.
Because curses.
Yeah.
Especially if it's in an easy to access area. Knowing that there have been groups here before, if something's been left behind, it's probably for a fairly good reason.
I just hope that whatever it was that Almendra came here for is something that it's not possible to take away. A mural or a statue or a
locking mechanism. That's what it was.
Well,
wasn't it?
she was looking for the secret to unlock a gate. So I hope
So
that's
maybe
in the
that's
form
not.
of information, a password, if it's just a key,
Lever?
it won't be here. I suppose we don't know where the gate is. I imagined that it was under Carvosti.
Say that's a safe bet at this stage.
The undergate we were told about, I imagine.
That was my assumption.
So you have entered a very large chamber, as you can see, with a lot of columns on either side holding up, or formally holding up the roof. Certainly not anymore. At each end of the room, both the east and the west, there are sort of open areas where there was once a vast arch leading into further chambers. You can see on the one to the west sort of dips down in a similar fashion to how the last room you're in sort of dips down, but you can't see whether it hits the water or what's going on there until you make your way closer to that former archway and through. There is also another more or less identical huge bronze door on the south facing. You see, you're probably starting to get, in fact, what I can do is there's a key for this, as you have no doubt seen, and I can start to reveal more of the things so as you can see, those symbols are locked doors. It's also worth noting, over the top of the wall, that south wall, you might be able to see around the center of it, there are trees sort of with the tops coming over the edge. So either trees are growing up within Faramarun itself, or perhaps that's some kind of courtyard, something along those lines, you'd suspect.
So is there a ceiling of the room that we're in?
No, none of this area has a ceiling as far as you could see from the outside.
Okay.
Does it? So presumably there was once a roof and it caved in.
Mm-hmm.
Is there evidence of that roof still basically just like lying around on the ground, or does it look like at some point somebody's come and kind of tidied the place up a bit?
They may have done that to some degree, but there is still a lot of rubble here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How high is
it's difficult to tell.
How high is the wall to the south?
The same height as most of the walls, which is 4.5 meters.
They're pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
But
almost all of it looks like not a fun climb, but certainly climbable. That could be one way of getting around the doors, for example.
Let's check on the right here, see if the flooding continues.
I'm trying to orient myself in my head. To the west. Okay, so you're heading over to this west part.
Unless anyone has a better idea, that's kind of where Steele's going to.
Yeah, you're going to head in that direction. Absolutely. Okay, so you walk over to the west part of this chamber, and as you're moving towards it, you can see like a little bit of sort of watery glittering further ahead of you as the pale sun kind of comes down overhead, and it's still sort of gently drifting with snow as you're doing so. And then, Steo, what I would like from you, please, is a quick test. You are on mute, friend.
No, I'm not. Hey, not bad.
Hey, you succeeded. In which case, the rather vicious-looking sinkhole that opens with the sound of stone tearing away from stone in front of you as you sort of drop one particularly heavy step next to a column. You almost kind of tumble backwards away from it and crash to the floor of Fria with a metallic clang as the sinkhole wrenches open with that kind of like grinding, tearing sound, and you manage to escape from falling down into the pit. Could you give me a 1d6 roll, please?
I rolled a 3.
Well, what is in front of you, or kind of at your feet now, I suppose, now you're on your back, is what appears to be a 13-meter deep tapered sinkhole. That would have been real bad to fall down.
May I ask how moist it is?
It's pretty moist. In fact, at the bottom of it, if you kind of peer down and see some more of that kind of glistening, that indicates that maybe your fall would have been somewhat cushioned by water, but not completely. As for what this end of the room more looks like ahead of you, you can see that beyond this sort of former archway is another kind of like little promontory of white rock just beyond the edge of the sinkhole, and then down from that again more flooding over to kind of another wall with another former archway, which as you converse about that sinkhole, I will clear up the map so you can see what I'm talking about.
Steo, are you all right?
No. Physically, yes.
Do you think we need to rope together? If we're exploring the areas to the west where there's been flooding?
Maybe we should just stay away from the west for now. Stick to the east
problem
where
is
there's less water.
the sinkhole goes down a bit before it gets wet. Like this, I don't think that's the same body of water. I think that's going into the caves. This'll hold all over again.
I don't want to go down the sinkhole.
No, well, this one doesn't go anywhere, but it just tells us that there are voids under here, and voids under Davokar are my least favorite thing.
Yeah. I don't want to go in the sinkhole.
Right.
Maybe
to avoid future confusion, I am sorry, but I'm going to slightly retcon what I've just said because I interpreted the wrong symbol the wrong way. So, or the wrong symbol the right way, or the right symbol the wrong way. It's only 10 meters deep, which I realized. Oh, you've ruined our immersion. But it does look, rather than an unnatural sinkhole, it looks like a floor collapse over once there was a cellar. But otherwise, it's exactly the same. There's still water down there. But I just want to make it sure it looks less like a sinkhole ripping open and more like a collapse into a cellar, albeit a cellar that doesn't seem to have anything in it but rubble and water in this one's case.
How much water? Like you've got a stream heading towards the swamp, and then you've got this hole in the path of the stream. Mm-hmm. So is it flooded completely, or is the stream pouring down into it? Or
I would say that in the case of this cellar floor specifically, it makes less sense. You'd think maybe it would be flooded up to the top, right? It looks like the groundwater has sort of seeped through, but not at a high enough rate, or maybe it's spreading out further into soil above or whatever. What I'm saying is it's a different level from the water in. So to some degree, it's being stopped from coming through, but enough has come through that it looks like you can't really tell. It may be half a meter's worth of water down there. It's very difficult to tell without diving down, you know.
But the water from that stream, whatever the current of the stream is pouring down into this thing.
Yeah, it's not kind of pouring visibly as far as you can see. You imagine it's kind of coming in through the walls below.
Yeah. Okay.
Or what were the walls and are now mostly trash and rubble.
In these
And
two
I've
rooms,
I've cleared the room ahead of you, by the way. It's worth noting that as well as the former archway to the west, there's also what look like a couple of doorways to the south. Hopefully you can see those.
in those two rooms that we've seen that are more or less flooded, does it look like the water is flowing through those rooms, or is it just sort of looks?
I would say there is the very slightest hint of sluggish movement.
Okay.
And it is southerly. Because that stream is flowing into the swamp. So north to south.
Matt, I've got a question for you, and this not doesn't necessarily apply to like where we are right now. But say if we,
I won't answer it.
Maybe if we move towards the east of this room, could myself or someone else do a check for footprints? Because if this is open and there has been like rainfall or snowfall or stuff like that, like is there any evidence of where other people might have gone recently?
You know, that's a really good question. And this big long room seems fairly central, right? From what you've seen. And I think that is an absolutely excellent question. And why don't we have Anton? And you know what? I'll change the usual vigilant penalty for Fire Maroon for this, because I think, as you say, a little bit of fresh snowfall really mitigates that. So let's have you do a vigilant at -1 to see if you can recognize any kind of passage of other individuals.
No, that's a big old fail. 17.
Big old fail, but I'm sure if you shared that plan with people who are better at this than
I'm not just saying this because I failed, but like I think because of the big space that we're in, I think it would make sense to address the group and say, maybe it's worth looking for signs that other travelers have passed through here. There may be footprints. We may know where they've gone.
That's a very good idea, Anton. Especially if we see them leaving or footprints heading to the exit, it's a safe way to come back from, at least.
I'll just be casting a somewhat unsubtle glance across to Askrai.
Askrai knows what his job is here. He's gonna look for these signs.
And you know what? DeGesto kind of nods and sort of mutters, "Good idea, priest," and starts kind of like wandering around and peering at the floor himself, taking very kind of like ginger steps. You know,
yeah, I was gonna say
with his big sort of form, but he seems to be doing a decent job of it. Vigilance at -1, please, Askrai.
Askrai has the Pathfinder boon. Ooh. I don't know if it applies here.
Read it out.
This is what I have written down. That is a well-tuned senses for spotting and following tracks, both below ground and on the surface. He or she gets a second chance to pass all vigilant tests when trying to follow a trail or find the way to or back from a place.
I would say that is exactly applicable. So yeah, go for it.
So at a -1, I need a 15 or less. I made it on the first try, so a 5.
Okay. In that case, I see. This is where it's interesting because there's sort of multiple things here that we could have, right? Let me just write out something here. So that's that. That's that, and that's that. Okay, give me a D3 roll, please, Askrai.
Okay, a D3 roll. I rolled a 2.
You rolled a 2. Let me. Okay, so you find what appear to be humanoid tracks from relatively soft sort of not soft, but kind of like they haven't left much of a track. So either they kind of know how to be a bit stealthy, or they were very lightly equipped, or something. Certainly, they're not, your party who are relatively kind of stamping around. You get the impression that these are people who may not have wanted their tracks to be found.
I was going to say, Ascry looks at these stealthy tracks and looks at our tracks and looks at their tracks and feels a little bit of envy at the stealthy party.
You know what? You basically find a set of the tracks going to the east, and then a set of tracks returning almost on top of each other, which again might be coincidence, but it's definitely similar tracks, and it might be that someone knows that to do this, to kind of try and conceal their tracks.
Yeah.
And you know what else? There's little spots of blood in the fresh snow. They seem to have come in more or less the same direction you have come in, gone to the east, and then retreated to the west. And you're pretty sure at some point during that, someone was bleeding.
Okay. Astra will point this out to the group. There's tracks heading east and back from the east, but it looks like they're bleeding most likely on the way out. This is a group that's keeping a low profile. I don't know. Could be the Black Cloaks, maybe the elves, but I don't think the elves would have been in like this.
Are they all the same size? Ish?
They look to be mostly the same size.
Which would rule out Cleaver.
Yeah, I was going to say what we can't rule out, however, and what fits most accurately would be Almendra.
That's true.
These are way too recent to be Almendra. The blood wouldn't be in the snow.
That's right. Almendra would have been here a while ago now.
Like months ago or years, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're
definitely not years, but yeah, within the last year.
Unless you're suggesting you think she may have come back.
Or maybe there's another player in this flipping game and we'll have to figure out what their deal is as well.
DeGesto is standing over near that eastern archway, and is kind of hunched over with the ends of his robe kind of like tucked up around his belt, and says, "Someone mentioned different sizes. Elfling, come take a look at this."
Don't call me Elfling, but fine.
As you please.
I'll go and have a look.
It is a large track. Can you give me a cunning roll for beast law, please?
Okay, I need a 10, I think, for cunning. I rolled a 3, so I make it.
Troll.
This is a troll track. We heard of rage trolls here.
Maybe it's what made your one bleed.
I'm guessing. Does the rage? Is there any blood in this track? In the troll track?
Nope.
Looks like the troll was better off than whatever made the smaller track.
Probably you can't be absolutely sure that they kind of cross paths, but certainly both of these beings traversed this area within the last couple of days.
Okay, I think the east is likely the way, but there's also probably trolls still here. A troll.
To the best of our knowledge, which is the most recent crew to have come through here? Is it the Black Cloaks or is it Cleaver's lot?
Cleaver's lot, surely.
Cleaver's lot, I think. I think they said that the Black Cloaks left the Sun Temple the day before you arrived at it. Or the outpost, right? They went first, but Cleaver was still there. So yes, you think that Cleaver was the last group here.
Cool.
If they made it this far.
I wouldn't put it past Cleaver's group to go for the southern entrance as a quicker way in. I think the Black Cloaks would likely have been more thorough and wanted to come through the main entrance, perhaps.
I know nothing about Cleaver.
We know a little bit about Cleaver.
leaving light trails, leaving no trails at all. As it like, have you found ogre tracks?
No.
Just human-sized,
they're definitely
human
not
or
ogre
elf-sized
size.
things
Yeah.
and trolls.
Because ogre is like sort of halfway between troll and human size, right?
Okay.
So
Any of the groups could have come through the south. We can't know who for certain who this is, but
But
it's not an
elves,
ogre.
elves or black cloaks are both reasonable guesses, right?
I would say so.
And it's more likely to be black cloaks if they were bleeding, because I just don't think that's how it's going to happen for the elves here, right?
We
If
know
one
the
of
Black Cloaks
Cleaver's
suffered
crew-
casualties.
if one of Cleaver's crew came through here, they would not be as good at hiding their tracks as you say those were.
They're essentially a war band, right?
He's a blunt instrument with an edge. How do you think he got the name?
Yeah.
That's quite clever, actually. What's I would like to just look into the next zone and see what's going on there, if that's okay. So the one to the east.
It's absolutely okay. And from this point on, now that we are aware that collapsing floors and sinkholes and the like are a thing, anytime you don't say that you're being careful and looking around, as Chris just didn't, I'm just going to give you no chance to spot it before it happens. So you will have to rely on a quick roll. Just so we know. But feel free to have further conversation because, well, no, actually, I can describe it before you do so. Luckily for you, Steo, there is no further collapse of the floor. But what is beyond that eastern archway is a fairly largish rectangular room with no particular features other than a great deal of sort of like collapse from the ceiling over on the north side of it. Just beyond that, against the east wall, is another large bronze door. And on the southern side of the eastern wall is an open doorway. And now I need to erase.
Just do you know what? No one's said anything, and so I'm just gonna say it because I've had a rough day today, and I just very diplomatically avoided us having to fight 11 elves. Just for the record.
What was it you were going to say, Steo? Just that?
Yeah. Good job, Steo. Thanks, Steo.
I think it was very well done.
Sure. Thank you, Steo.
I agree with Arundar. You're handy with that spear, but you're pretty good with your tongue too, Steo. Never regret Pappy, regret that.
It wasn't
Forever-
Mike that made me laugh. It was Matt that made me laugh.
Forever
Same.
regret that hashtag. What does chat feedback on us about this whole arrangement? Do you like this? Or do we think that in the case of the map, you bastard, this is better because it's a little bit closer in? What do the players think as well?
I think for a place this size, the more of it we can get on the screen,
Yeah, sure,
the better.
sure.
But
I might. I don't want to do it live, but I might be able to. Oh, what if we go for? No, that's smaller.
Is it?
Nope. Yeah.
Go back.
Slightly.
Go back. Is
It's a
it?
little bit smaller,
Yeah,
but
slightly.
I think it's still okay. I'm not against this.
Is it bigger than that? Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
How about the halfway then? How about that? Yeah. Okay. Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
nice.
This is good now because if I cast my eyes down, it makes me look like I'm contemplating the scene, which is quite nice.
Where to next then, folks?
I
Okay,
really
so-
want to follow tracks. The human, not the troll tracks.
Or maybe
Go ahead.
No, go on.
The human tracks seemed to lead to through that southern sort of southeast doorway in there. The troll track, you can't really tell. It was only like the one.
Okay,
So you can't really tell.
I'll say it looks like that whoever was that left those the good tracks went through that door. Seems sensible to follow them and see where they came from or went to.
Yeah, just keep an eye out for anything that's going to make us bleed.
I do really want to take a proper look at these locks as well.
Yeah, it seems to be working out so far. If we're just uncovering these paths of least resistance, which are also where the tracks go, we can always come back to these doors.
Do you know what? That's absolutely fair.
I don't want to open anything we don't have to.
That is a good philosophy for Davokar.
That's where the best stuff will be. Locked doors.
I don't want to open anything we don't have to until we're on the way out.
Now that I agree with.
Okay, then. So are we making our way into that southeastern room?
I think so.
Okay.
Carefully.
Is that
Carefully.
Okay. So the doorway is at a bit of an angle, so you do have to kind of like step into the room to sort of uncover it. It's a quite a long, relatively narrow room running north to south. You think there's a little bit where basically to the south, further southeast of it, it feels like the ceiling has collapsed to such a degree that it's sort of built up into this like sort of mound of rubble that doesn't look very easily climbable, but is kind of blocking a bit of light that's coming down from above. Like there's several jagged pieces of this former ceiling still remaining. And it's sort of casting a shadow on the southern part of the room, so it's quite difficult to see. But you think there seem to be other passageways or doorways out there, but someone's going to have to, like you or the group of you, will have to proceed properly into the room to find out.
I think we'll carefully go into the room.
Carefully go into the room. Okay. If you know that you're looking out for things, is there someone specific at the front of the party? I'm not trying to throw Askarai to the wolves.
Askarai will happily go to the front of the party to look out for things, not wanting other people to fall in.
For the record, I'm 100% happy throwing Askarai to the wolves.
You've got a kind of decent quick score as well, Askarai, right? So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, not too bad. And also like good vigilance to maybe spot whatever there may be before it happens.
Sure. I think we have plenty of other situations where like Stio or Alindra will be out at the front. We have situations where Arendar will be out at the front because we have to talk to someone. This is Askarai's time to shine.
Absolutely.
We'll also probably take Antom's advice and hand Askarai one end of my rope in case he does fall into a sinkhole, for example.
Sure, yeah. So, speaking of that, Askarai, could you give a vigilant roll at -4, please?
Okay, I need a 12. I rolled an 11, so just about.
Yeah, you as you're making your way towards the southern part of this room, you basically don't like the way that a few of the flagstones are tipped. They're like angled down in a sort of irregular, sort of circular pattern. And at the center of it, you can see a crack in the ground, a crack through which just little bits of matter, like little stones and pebbles are kind of like, with your footsteps, are kind of like starting to. Basically, that's a sinkhole if ever you saw one, or and it, unlike the other one, this does look like a sinkhole rather than like a collapsing floor. Yeah.
Okay. Askarai, well, is it avoidable? It's not like in the doorway or anything. It's like you can walk around it.
You can kind of walk around it, but if people try and walk around it, they are going to have to like make a discreet roll to avoid setting it off. B, if they do set it off, make a quick roll to avoid tumbling in. But the quick roll will get some pluses to it because you know it's coming and you know where it is, right?
Okay, in that case, I'll point out to the group and say, should we just collapse this? Otherwise, we might lose track of it, or especially if we're trying to make a quick exit.
I'd rather not make any more noise than we need to.
I'm with Steo. Is this where the trail goes? Is this where the Black Folks went? So they circumvented, or maybe the sinkhole was not a sinkhole when they passed through?
Maybe it just liked them and let it past.
It just looks.
So
I can only see they went this way roughly, but I don't see tracks over the sinkhole. Just it's hard to say.
Let me, if I get the map sorted for you, that may help you to some degree. Now you are in the room, you can see that there is an old doorway, like an empty doorway, to the west of the room, and to the south of the room, and to the east of the room. The only one for which you would have to navigate the sinkhole is the southmost one. And I will illustrate that for you with this again. So if you can see that now, there is a doorway to the east, to the west, and to the south. The sinkhole is only a problem if you want to go through that southern doorway.
And
Ascarai,
the tracks are going further east.
Well, Ascarai, can you give a vigilant roll, please, to further follow the tracks? And I would like that at a -2, but of course you get your double roll for Pathfinder.
Okay, so I'd need a 14 or less on one of these rolls. I rolled a 19 on the first try and a 5 on the second try. So the second one makes it.
Okay, you think that these human or humanoid tracks go into the east doorway?
Okay, I'll say that. Looks like the tracks head east rather than through by the sinkhole. So should we just leave it alone for now if we don't want to set it off?
Yep, sounds
Let's go
good.
east.
Let's follow the trail.
Good work, Ascarai.
Okay. From peeking into that next room over to the east, you can see it's an even narrower long room that runs north to south. That kind of like ceiling collapse / bit of fragmentary actually ceiling that I described, its epicenter is sort of here, and the southern part of the room is really dominated by that sort of big uneven mound of rubble. You can see from where you're standing that there are two exits to this room other than the one you're kind of looking through. They're both on the east wall basically to the north and south of where you can see. I am completely happy to illuminate it for you. But as I'm assuming oh god, I'm doing it live again. I've really got to learn not to do that because that could really give some shit away. Yeah, but I'm happy to kind of, unlike the other room, you can see like a lot more of this one. Just from standing in the doorway, so yeah. You kind of don't have to go into it to divine all that information.
I might just turn to the group at this point and say, how late in the day do we think it might be now? We want to give ourselves time to get out of here before it gets dark.
I am going to institute a cautious speed of, do we think... Ooh. Well, how long do you guys think it would take you to navigate a room while being cautious?
5 minutes?
10? Yeah,
That's-
like it. I mean, I guess they're quite big.
Caution.
There is actually just walking time, but like, I mean, it was before noon when we first entered Fria Ligan.
It was, and I think I said it was about 1 in the afternoon when you'd finished recovered from the fight with the Fey beasts.
Yeah.
I think I'm happy for it to be. I think you'd be even slower and more cautious in your first few rooms in here. I think you're maybe starting to push towards 2:30 or 3:00 in the afternoon, or that equivalent. Whatever.
And what time do we think it
Ambly
gets?
equivalent is.
What time do you think it gets dark?
Well, what time does it get dark right at the beginning of spring? I suppose is the question there. I think the answer to that is
6, something like that.
Or on these latitudes.
I think it. Let's go in the middle of that and say about 5-ish. So you've probably got a couple more hours in the ruin before it gets properly dark. But you'd probably want to get out of the ruin before it's dark and like set up your camp and stuff.
Yeah. So we got
maybe an hour to play on the safe side. Yeah.
2 if we're really pushing it.
Yeah.
A couple more rooms.
And the
we need
for
to
all
find...
their sort of passive aggressiveness, the elves definitely seem keen on you not camping in the ruins.
Yeah.
Look, we need to find the end of this trail today, so we know we can come in here tomorrow. Maybe look at those doors.
At least get as far as we can.
Okay, well, I assume you are going to try and keep on the trail in this room then.
Yep.
Okay, could you give me a vigilant roll, please, at -2 again, Asteroid? And obviously, you can do your double check.
Okay.
Which means you have to go in the room.
Yeah, I'll go in the room carefully.
Carefully. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to roll.
Okay. I made the vigilant roll to find the tracks.
Okay. The tracks lead through the northernmost gap in the east wall. I don't know if you can see. You can see it there, right? It's just by what, in all likelihood, actually looks to be another big kind of collapsed ceiling mound. They're kind of like on either side, north and south of where you are. But the one on the north is a bit less clear to you. It looks to be mainly over some walls.
The tracks are heading through that door.
Do you know what strikes me as strange about all this? They knew where they were going. They didn't flip around. They didn't make any mistakes. They didn't trigger any sinkholes. And they didn't backtrack.
So either that's black cloaks with information we didn't have, or it's elves, or it's Almendra.
Or
it's not likely.
Since we've come in and followed the tracks, we've always followed the left-hand wall.
That's true.
And I know from previous experience that actually didn't work out in that circumstance. But if you're exploring a maze, then it's best to stick to one wall on the same side, right?
Yeah, it's possible
so maybe they were just doing that.
Possible they didn't know where they're going, but they had a system.
So I suppose the litmus test for this, if we have litmus in this day and age, is do they ever take the right door?
It's possible they've left other tracks, but I mean they've done quite a good job at hiding them. If they have 1 or 2 people going ahead to scout, maybe we're only finding the tracks of the main party heading through once they know the way. But I agree, it'll be interesting to see if they ever take another door other than the left-hand one.
Do you have any sense of how many people came this way, Ascaroy?
More than 1 and less than 5.
Okay. A small party.
Hmm.
There were more black cloaks than that, right?
Yeah,
I think there were.
Indeed. Possibly. I can tell you how many.
There were a lot of black cloaks at the encampment. We don't know how many left on this leg of the adventure, in fairness.
No.
some may have camped outside. It's
All
hard
true.
to say.
Okay. Well,
Certainly more than there were. There's more elves than 5. That's certainly true.
Let me find out for you how many.
Just
black cloaks there were.
Was it significantly more than 4 or 5?
I will find out.
Some of them have come back with 6
There
after losing.
were. You didn't have Degester with you at that point, so I didn't enhance the count. So I believe there were about 8 black cloaks.
Okay. So the tracks would be a bit numbers light for the black coats unless they specifically left some behind.
If it was all, yeah, correct, absolutely.
Well, we've got a few questions we can answer with a bit more exploring.
Yeah, let's press on, get as much information as we can before it gets dark.
Yep.
Okay. You take a step, presumably towards that the most northerly of the wall, of the openings in the wall, or to the east. And as you do so, starting as like a low sort of humming noise that swells and grows and echoes around. It kind of echoes around the chamber you're in, but also like is sort of thrumming through the air, the kind of open air over the top of where you are. It is the noise that who heard it? And Tom and someone else. Degesto for sure. Steo, I think.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
In that sort of early watch
overnight.
shift.
Yeah. Steo and Anton, it is the same noise you heard, but this time kind of rising from nothingness. You can hear it kind of like soaring from a low hum to a sort of wailing, thrumming drone. If you want a good sort of comparison point, I would say it sounds like Tuvan throat singing or a didgeridoo, but much more full-throated and rich, and literally kind of like leaving you feeling, like when you're at a particularly loud gig and kind of you can feel your molecules vibrating ever so slightly. It has that sensation in you. It feels quite close to where you are. And if everyone makes a either their choice of a vigilant or a cunning roll, I'd say probably both at a -5 because it's a very disorienting sound. Thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down. What do? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up.
I rolled a 1.
Oh, there we go. Anton, it is coming from somewhere to the east. You're fairly sure that before it became so kind of like all-encompassing that you couldn't really sense the direction of it, you're fairly sure you heard it coming from beyond the walls you're actually looking at now. Ascarai, I'm for a 1, I'm literally gonna give you a sort of rough measurement. You think that sound started no more than 20 meters from the direction you're facing.
Okay. I think thinking that Ascrai is going to try and motion people back away from the way we were going to discuss.
Sure. Abandoned dungeon.
Yeah, we're gonna go. Elindra's also gonna pull out her sword and activate Revenant Strike.
Sure.
In case it happens to be needed in the inevitable chase sequence.
Sure.
I think Anton may be making like really kind of exaggerated, like let's do fucking discreet roll, guys.
Sure,
sort of
absolutely. Well, so I take it you're basically trying to creep back the way you've come and leave Symbaroum, at least obviously for now. If everyone could make discreet rolls, please, at +5. This sound is very loud and it's very sort of, like I say, all-encompassing would be the thing. Yep. Yeah. You all kind of, it's not difficult to be stealthy when there's the equivalent of a sort of like cymbaric throat singing fire alarm going off, right? And as you sort of make your way out, you can't really talk to each other unless you kind of lean over and sort of yell a little bit. So you can go ahead and do that if you want. But on your way out, I would like a couple of rolls. I would like a roll. Would I like a roll? I want to read something about an ability. So let me find that. But also, I want to roll from Anton. And I want it at cunning. But it's quite specific. So let me just look at a couple of abilities first.
I hate it when he looks at abilities.
First off, Sam, what
Yes.
level of beast law have you got?
Only the first level.
Okay. I will pass on you then. And what level of law master do you have, Anton?
1.
1.
I have 1 law master.
Okay. Then I would like you to make a cunning roll at -5, please.
Oh, shit. My cunning's only 11. And I rolled a 19.
Yeah, no, never mind. So about
Fine margins.
because you're being stealthy, but I'm guessing you're being kind of fast stealthy, right? And just trying to get out of here as quickly as possible. You retreat through the chambers you've just been in. You don't have to go anywhere near that untriggered sinkhole. Through the long chamber, through that entrance chamber with the bodies of the fey beasts around you, and there's already a kind of rich iron smell to the air as their bodies sort of lay there. And then you're out of the front of Symbaroum, out in the sort of open, slightly open ground, dusted with snow. There are sporadic trees ahead of you, and then a denser tree line a very short way to the north.
What's happening with the sound?
It is continuing on. It has grown neither louder nor kind of more proximate or anything like that. It is as it was overnight when the others heard it. It's just sort of echoing around the ruins of Symbaroum and out over the forest.
Okay,
Can we talk to each other a bit easier out here?
Definitely.
So maybe when we heard the wailing last night, it was because that person had tripped that guard dog or ancient prince or whatever nonsense lies beyond that sound.
It was coming from so close to us. Like a room or 2 away, maximum.
The elf said something that's calling like animals, beasts, right?
I think the implication was that our behavior was calling the beasts.
The elf referred to it as a song.
Is it okay if I don't want to find out what it is? Just that's on the table.
That's the way the tracks led.
Well,
But
we
maybe
don't
if
know
you come
what-
back tomorrow, it won't be there. It'll be somewhere else.
Yeah. We can only hope.
At some point, though, it'll be between us and an exit, and I don't fancy my chances against something with that much voice projection.
We have not yet got what we came here for. So I don't know how many more days we're going to spend doing at it, but tomorrow at least we're going back in, right?
Yeah.
Well, unless the elves give us the information we need, if they decide to turn up again.
The problem that we have with what you said to the elves, Steo, is that you told them that our intention was to close a gate or to close a door. The specific information that Elmendra came here for was information about how to open one.
Yeah. Well, I believe Elmendra's opened it.
We don't know whether she's closed it behind her. We don't know how any of that works. What I'm saying is that it's going to be quite a difficult conversation with the elves to say, hey, tell us the information we need about how to open that gate so that we can close it.
So the thing is, I was very careful in the words I used with the elves, because you have to be, because words is what they do. And when I said a door, I did not specifically say the undergate. I left it open with the metaphorical implication that what I mean is the route to Symbar.
I understand that you spoke carefully. I'm just saying that I'm skeptical that the elves will simply give us the information that we came here to find. I mean, by all means, try.
Oh, yeah. I mean, really, what I want is for the elves to give me a good reason not to go poking around an ancient ruin with something so formidable in it. And I think they have that.
Unfortunately, I think the elves will give up any information that could even potentially lead to Symbar over their cold dead bodies. It's the opposite of what they would want. I think the best we could hope for maybe is some information on what that creature is that might help us to avoid it or fight it if we have to.
If it's even something that we should be fighting. Like, this isn't our palace. Whoever's there has been there a long time and has been disturbed by people poking around.
It is possible that we don't have to engage whatever that is. We've had experiences in Davokar before where we've fled when the right decision was to flee.
I'm all for avoiding it.
Elmendra and Bartho survived by being able to flee once they had the information. The Black Cloaks didn't all come back. Cleaver's crew didn't all come back.
Clearly, none of them have killed it.
No. And I don't know if any of them have tried, but I don't fancy our chances.
Perhaps if we can find a way to open some of the locked doors, we may be able to help stop ourselves from being trapped by it.
Yeah.
Find a way around it.
The only thing is, the minute we circumvent, the minute one of those doors is opened, diplomacy with the elves might get more difficult. So I say we do that last day, and tomorrow we go through that water. And I'm arguing against my own better judgment here because I really want to poke at those locks. Love a bit of symbaric mechanism, me, but I think it makes the most sense that we do that on the way out. Like, on the way out of this whole damn area.
I was thinking about those flooded rooms. Do you think they're intentional? Because the river goes, or the stream goes right up to the wall, right? And, well, where would it go if not?
It looks intentional coming out the south side, doesn't it? Didn't it?
Maybe
I mean,
I'm asking.
500 years ago, the stream wasn't there.
That's
it is a symbaric palace.
Yeah.
Keeping a pet river is probably within the realms of possibility for these.
I was going to make Anton make a Lawmaster Cunning roll, but Ascaray hit on it. I mean, Symbar fell 1,000 years ago. Like, it's a small stream. It probably wasn't there. Ditto the swamp when the palace was built. DeGesto, for his part, sort of shakes his head. He's kind of like knelt. Where are we camping? I'm assuming this conversation is happening as we're setting up camp, by the way. Have you just kind of proceeded a short way into the tree line, and then is there anything specific you're looking for?
I think that's a good place to have a discussion, because we were talking about being more thorough with our camping arrangements. So
I think we'd be looking for a little clearing so we have some kind of line of sight around us. Maybe would be better than just in a patch of trees.
I don't really want to be in the shadow of this place. I want to go 100 yards, 200 yards north.
Maybe we could have the river at one of our sides of the camp.
Yeah,
slightly safer.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
camp by the stream and walk a perimeter, all of that kind of stuff.
Well, you know what? The two people there who expressed most opinion about what they want the campsite to look like are Askarai and Alindra. So why don't we have both of them roll a vigilant roll to see how, either vigilant or cunning, to see how well they do with that. And in the meantime, DeGesto is going to, like, after the conversation about the stream and the water, is going to grunt and say, those foundations there, they weren't intended to let through water. It's just part of the natural collapse.
I thought it was quite fetching, to be honest.
I still think a pet river is not beyond the realms of possibility. DeGesto, do you have a feeling you could overcome these locks without too much damage?
And this is me not maybe quite remembering, but he says, depends. You're going to give me my grenade back?
Fair. I'll hand it over.
He kind of takes the grenade and sort of, there's a little kind of crack as he sort of opens it up. Those are big doors, big locks, assuming what's holding it back is the mechanism and not something blocking the other side of it. I reckon I might be able to get through 2 or 3 with what's in here. We'll be loud. Very loud.
Yeah. Well, let's try. We've had good luck picking Symbaroum doors before. Let's try and be subtle about it. First.
Askarai and Alindra, how did you do the vigilant rolls?
Failed.
Okay, in that case, let's say you've got a kind of partial success of what you're looking for, right? So you've got a bit of an open area with the stream on one side. The stream isn't providing much of a barrier. Honestly, someone could literally leap over it. But still, you've got as much line of sight as you really get in Deep Davakar, outside of finding an actual proper open clearing. You know, it at least partially serves your purpose. With a couple of people on watch, you can be fairly assured that bar a complete assault, you would know about it before, like, anything happened.
Cool. Asher will say, for whoever's keeping watch, just be very vigilant. The elves, there were elves in that group who would kill us without hesitation, even if the leader's not so keen on it. Some of them were not looking at us in a very friendly manner.
And it's I suspect it's one thing seeing fey beasts coming at us from the forest, and another thing entirely seeing elves.
Oh, you won't see elves coming.
Nevertheless,
That's what I'm saying.
double up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if an elf is talking to you, you have survived. I want to make that very clear. These people know how to kill. I have seen tremendous artistry from their bows, and I don't want to be on the receiving end of it. So the diplomatic solution, even if that means forswearing a little bit of knowledge, is probably the best.
You're on mute.
Been on mute constantly in the last 10 minutes. So we are setting up camp and getting our meal ready for the night and all of those things. And I believe we said that if you're in Symbaroum longer than how many days was it?
For
4 days that
Oh,
you're in
was it?
trouble.
Yeah.
So this has been the first day in Symbaroum. So there we go. I'm counting that as day number 1. Stephen looks like he's about to argue with me.
Well, I mean, I'm about to argue against the party's food rations, but like, where are we counting from? From when we left the Sun Temple?
No, I said you
at
had
Symbaroum.
at Symbaroum.
At Ferrum. Okay, then yes, that's a day.
And I think my understanding was that we'd only be in trouble in terms of like our rations expiring on the way back.
Yes, yeah,
to
absolutely.
civilization.
Yeah,
So we're not like in
yeah.
immediate like starvation now.
No. But if you spend more than 4 days at Symbaroum, you'll need to do some successful hunting or trading on your way back, or you're going to be hungry or worse before getting back to Carvosti.
Sure.
And we have kind of made that. We're aware of that. We've like figured that out. That we're.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. And then you're going on watch. I believe, given how many people are now in the party, the agreement was that 3 people are on watch at any one time.
I think if we've got the people to do it, then yeah, we've done that. I'm sure we've done that at previous camps.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Can I just surreptitiously try and squirrel my way onto the same watch as Arendar, just for the purposes of the aluminium circle, the aluminium agreement?
The aluminium. I can't think of another word for circle.
Sure.
A non-rectangle.
The brass hoop.
Yeah.
I mean, brass ring was right there, but yeah.
No, that's why we didn't take it.
I think Chris might think a brass ring is a different thing. So let's. Okay, yeah. I think that's absolutely fine. Yeah, let's do that. And you know what? You're on. Would we want to intentionally mix the watches? Gesto doesn't care, but would you want representatives from both groups on watch, or do you not kind of care about that?
I think that's preferable if it's doable. We
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Okay, so Steo, Aaron, and one of the fortune hunters, you are indeed on watch at the same time. I'm assuming Steo and Aaron are going to have a little conversation at this point. Let's make a roll as to which of the watches it is, shall we? It is the watch, not the dawn watch, but the one just before dawn. So, in the small hours of the night. Very dark. And there is no moon tonight. What are we doing for light?
Campfire, I assume.
Just keeping the campfire going. Don't have torches or anything.
Especially if it's snowing, probably need the warmth of it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So I imagine at some point things will be casual enough for me to just be talking with Aaron without arousing the suspicions of
the fortune hunter. The fortune hunter, she's on the other side of the campsite. She's like quietly whittling.
I didn't actually plan a secret meeting. I just thought that if we were both awake at the same time, we'd increase the chances of the elves turning up. But I don't think they know who we are.
Well, no, but I think you definitely intrigued them back there.
Yeah. I think maybe we could have got out of it without playing so many cards, but I was just hoping maybe that would give us... I need to know what we're supposed to be doing here. We cannot be the only people who are pact aligned, who are trying to stop this before it gets out of hand.
I wish we tried harder to find Malahai. I just didn't want to go asking around for elves on the top of Carvosti,
No, I don't think they're going to be under Carvasti either.
How is it that you know my name? Standing on the other side of the stream from you is the elf from before. He just emerged from behind a rather large tree.
Has the fortune hunter noticed him?
No, she's on the other side and is intent, and Malahai is speaking in a very low tone.
The two of us are friends in strife and sorrow.
We are known to Tiara Tiana. We were sent from Thistlehold to try and meet with you on Carvasti, but we didn't know how to find you.
There is a notable relaxing in his posture and his face, and he nods and says, "You are the new additions to our pact that she spoke of."
Prospective, anyway.
That is the role it seems to have found us, yes. We're here to keep as many people alive as possible.
And you fought to still the troubled waters in Thistlehold.
Yes, and help Deox.
What is it that you seek here?
Elindra came, the one who woke the creature there.
Ilmindra.
Elamindra. She was researching a locking mechanism, we believe, to the undergate at Carvasti. She then found or procured the witch hammer. We believe she's making for Symbaroum, and worse, half of Ambria seems to have found this out as well and is following her. We need to stem the tide.
How do you propose to do this?
We were hoping we were not the only ones.
I confess, I am here on our own matters. Whatever this Almendra awoke is now calling out over this part of the forest, drawing animals, beasts, and fouler things to raise a petty kingdom here in the rubble of this palace. We are trying to see what can be done to still its tongue. But if what you say is true, then there are deeper concerns. So your intention is to find this ancient mechanism so you know how to work this undergate, and then what? Enter beneath the plateau, destroy the source of this information?
Hopefully, or find some other rock to plug the gap in the dike, some other way to hide this from drawing too many lives away. We don't have a grand plan yet. I was hoping that we would receive it from yourself or someone else within the pact. It is rare that we are the ones who bring tidings of corruption and woe.
For my part, if she can be saved, I would like to find Almendra. I doubt she understood the horrors of what she's unleashed, and I know there is at least one person who wants her home.
It sounds like it may be possible, but you must understand, even if you can save her life, you may not be able to save her. Do you understand me?
I think we will come to.
Those who trespass often become lost even to themselves. I will speak to my fellows. I will try to secure their aid for you. The mechanism you speak of, I suspect it lies past the one who sings. He will not be easy to either bargain with or strike down, but perhaps one or the other can be achieved. I am first among equals here, but the others with me do not have the taste for cooperation as I do. Teana's leadership is not the only one within the Iron Pact. It is important for you to understand this. And the one who stands above us all is lost to himself in a different way.
I think we had heard his calls before. For our part, we are a subtle knife, as subtle as we can be.
If you are a subtle knife, or intending to be so, maybe next time you should not walk straight into the gates to fight the beasts. I will go talk to my companions, but this conversation with them will not be resolved tonight. You do what you must in the ruins tomorrow, and I urge caution and safety, and not to engage the one who sings before you must do. I will try to return to you tomorrow evening. Do your companions not share your ideals?
I begin to have my doubts. Some of them value gold more than life.
For whatever reason, they were also not entrusted with our task to see you. And as that is Teana's wish, we must honor it.
Not all can make a pact and keep it. Malahai turns slightly to walk kind of back behind the trees. Like, I don't want to give you the impression he was literally just stood behind a tree and like, the tree leads to a cluster which he kind of emerged from. And as he takes a step towards it, he stops 1 second and just sort of glances slightly over his shoulder and whispers, "Nevermore."
Nevermore, friend.
Nevermore.
He steps away into the night.
Okay, mission accomplished. Okay, it's not going to be a hard sell to get people to be cautious about the one who sings. So
No. If anything, it may be harder to get them to convince them to confront it at the end.
I think I deserve some of the good jerky. Would you like some of the good jerky?
I think I would like some of the good jerky, yes.
Okay. You indeed share some of the good jerky. And as your the fortune hunter seems to have not been aware of that in the slightest, or if she was, she's doing a very good job of not showing it. And the next group of people on watch, again having a mix. So let's have DeGesto, one of the fortune hunters, and Father Anton. Roused from their slumber. I'm assuming Steele and Aaron, as you wake Anton, you don't tell him.
Yeah, I think we're gonna keep that secret for a while longer.
Turning into some lovely Vampire the Masquerade style internecine betrayals and politics now. Love it. So Anton, you're roused. It's the last watch before dawn. So at this hour, there's no more light in the sky. But obviously over the course of your watch, it'll get lighter and lighter. But it's still quite dark at the moment. DeGesto, as is usual on watch, is looking quite grumpy and like he'd much rather be asleep, and is sort of tramping around on one side of the camp. The Fortune Hunter is sat just sort of lazily staring up at the stars and blinking and occasionally looking round. Are you kind of like, because DeGesto is around, kind of like is kind of moving around the stream and sort of at one point kind of like even kind of dipping a foot tentatively in its like strips of his boot and kind of enjoying the ice cold, frankly, water on the soles of his feet. Are you interacting with them, or are you kind of like checking the other side of the camp, or what kind of thing are you doing?
No, I think I'm not interacting with them. I'm checking the other side. So if they're stream side, I'm on the other side.
Absolutely, sure.
Maybe more angled towards the temple.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. As you do so, you hear the song died out a couple of hours after you set up camp, and as you wander over to the southern side, it starts up again, sort of rising like kind of like a droning cacophony in the distance, sort of reverberating around you. It's not close. It's definitely still coming from Fria Ligan. You don't feel any immediate danger, although presumably slightly discomforted by it or what have you. Could you give me, please, a vigilant roll at a +3?
Shit, I don't think I'll make it. That's an 18.
Okay. So as you're kind of like moving around the sort of south part of the camp, I'm going to have to ask you to make another vigilant roll, please. And this one is at... let me see. It's just a flat vigilant roll.
Yeah, I make it.
You make it. Okay. Someone is moving up behind you at speed.
Shit. I'm grabbing my flail and I'm yelling out for DeGesto.
Well, they ain't going to hear you because of the sound coming from the... like, sustained yelling will probably get some attention, but it's difficult to get kind of the volume up to...
I will commence sustained yelling.
Sure,
even if I'm
absolutely.
only the initial notes of it.
Okay, as you kind of like turn around to see the person coming up to you, a few things register as surprise for you. And I'm going to say, and here's where you'll have to take my word on this, Father Anton, that yelling probably dies in your throat a little bit. Okay? This is the individual approaching you. She's maybe in like her late 30s, but looks very weather-beaten for it. She is wearing the typical garb of a Queen's Ranger. Her name is Lindra, which you know. And as she kind of pads up closely to you, she has like a knife in her hand. But as she sees you turn, she holds the knife up, like out to one side, like in an obvious kind of like, I'm not about to strike with it, slowly sheathes it, puts a finger to her lips, takes a couple of closer steps, and says, Father Anton, it's an awful long way from Ravenna. What are you doing here? And we will end there, I think. And if anyone's confused about that, I would urge you to revisit the beginning of The Witch Hammer, where Anton went on his own secret little adventure, which we said we'd cover and then didn't cover. But that's because we're about to start covering it. The next 3 or 4 weeks is going to be a mid-season flashback diversion, an interlude, where we're going to find out what happened to Anton. various people, like, we're gonna part of the reason for this is because one of our, for the timing anyways, one of the group is going to be stepping away for a lot of those sessions, so I thought this is an ideal time to do it. So we will have I think next week next week is off. Sorry, I am on non-holiday holiday next week, so we should say that, by the way, which I hadn't even told the rest of the group, so there we go. I am on non-holiday holiday next week, and then the week after that, we'll start this flashback with all the players, although no one but Mike will be playing Anton. Well, obviously the others won't be playing. Oh my god!
Oh my god! What if there were 5 Antons?
My brain.
Everyone is Anton.
Do it. Let's do it. It's a one pager.
So many 20s. So
5
many
Antons and a vampire. There's also an
yeah. Nice. So okay. Next week we're off. First week of the flashback is going to be everyone, but only like Mike will be playing Anton. The others will be playing characters they don't even know about yet. And then for the couple of weeks,
I don't have to play Steel.
For the couple of weeks after that,
get to play Anton.
We'll have most of the crew. But yeah. We'll find out what Anton got up to on that secret mission for Disable the Alt. So there we go. Lovely stuff. As per usual, if you've got any comments or questions, please do throw them in the chat. I will just get some promo done out of the way. Check down below for links. YouTube, Twitch, you're watching on one. Please do check out the other. There's also links to our Patreon, our Discord, our social media. Look at those if those are things that you like to look at. We run 2 weekly campaigns at the moment, Vason on Mondays and Symbaroum on Wednesdays. We also run one-shots monthly, the next one of which is this Saturday. This Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, BST. Because we have now, for anyone confused, we have now switched from GMT to BST because... Yes, let's not even think about that. Yeah, that's Dungeon World, which is a sort of sequel that you don't have to have watched the first part of another previous one-shot we did, which was also obviously Dungeon World. You can go check that out on YouTube. And then at the end of April, we'll be playing Goblin Quest with quite a few of this crew and me. So, yeah, I think that's everything. John, are the thank yous for follows, etc., up to date from Monday, or is there anyone extra on there from when you did it? They are.
Let me double check because I haven't looked at it yet because I was too busy looking at it.
Yes, John says, but I will check because I don't know.
I thought you meant will they update compared to where you asked me? It doesn't matter.
Sure, sure.
Oh my god, I just caught a clip of me waving my hands around like a lunatic. Thank you to Am Sexton and Legitimine. Actually, no, I think
you must have done Am Sexton before. Okay. Well, thank you to you two anyway for the follows, and thank you to Steve for the resubscribe. We appreciate it, of course, as we appreciate Steve all the time. So there we go, folks. Comments and questions. Steve is indeed watching. Thank you. Yeah, I really like that layout. I really like that layout. Like it a lot. Both of them. I'm amazed that Matt didn't decide to skip the witch hammer entirely to avoid the endless puns, or at least endless use of the same pun. I feel like I've asked this before. What pun?
Witch hammer?
Witch hammer.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think it's just one of the many things you have to live with, Matt, isn't it? Really?
Sure. Yeah. Have people really done that? I can't remember. I think we did that once, right?
I think we've landed it about 3 times, but we've been very sparing with it.
Okay. Maybe I haven't noticed.
We know that if we overdo it, then it'll get a bit too much.
I just think you all did it, and then Beremo happened, and you had a new favorite toy. So
I think we might be the only group who would.
There we go.
Using the same pun 3 times as being very sparing with it.
Yeah,
feels like 3 is quite a lot for me.
To be fair, Stephen, 3 times over 25 episodes. It's not bad.
It's quite a lot of time. That's 50 hours.
Yeah.
Especially given the amount of.
I stand by my witch hammer pun in this episode. I'm not sorry.
I didn't even notice it. I was probably busy running a fucking game.
I would also like to throw out this other one from Stephen.
Well, we didn't cover the last one from Stephen first.
Oh.
So,
I thought you were deliberately not.
no, I kept trying to talk about it, and everyone kept talking about the witch hammer pun. Stephen was hoping for Berrimer. What at the end with Lindra?
Yeah.
Sure,
right.
why not?
That would have been
Sure.
that would have been a moment.
I mean, Lindra was okay too.
Sure. Lindra will be more exciting after the flashback.
Yeah, but she's no Elindra, is she? She's just a Lindra.
God, it is the same name.
Perfectly.
They're sort of weirdly similar looking as well.
It's also another
Literally,
one now get confused
had-
with Fria Ligan.
2 female characters in this campaign, player characters. One of them had literally the same name as one of the first NPCs you meet in the campaign proper, and the other one is 1 letter away from another character in the second.
The thing is,
I should have seen this coming.
So I
changed them.
assume it's the same for like FNA. Like Elindra is one of the like suggested Ambrian female names that I just picked straight out of the rule book.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of a shame that like I don't know if there are any actual Elindras in the campaign, but yeah, you would hope that the ones they make available for players might be like different to the ones they use for NPCs. But
yeah, you'd think. There we go. Another one for Stephen. 11 elves plus that one, 12s.
Yes.
You're welcome, Internet.
That's very good. That's why people come here. That's why thousands of viewers.
See, we have very similar thoughts in that I'm looking up at the viewer counts at the top left and going, yeah, that's why there's that many people there. Mike, we're all doing this because of our deep abiding love for Prios, right, guys?
Sure, pal.
Yeah.
I am one good story beat away from actually joining the cult of Zenatha, just FYI.
Not sure how the Iron Pack would feel about that, but yeah.
You'd also have to properly find. You'd probably have to find the cult of Zenatha before you did that.
Well,
we do know of one. We do know of one group of barbarians who like spiders, don't we?
And that's why I picked up one of the little spider charms as well. Stia was having a little moment.
Yeah, I think I don't think you need to find the cult of Zenatha. I think it's there inside your heart all along.
Like the tiny spiders they put inside you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the real Symbar was the giant spider gods we met along the way.
That were laid in our hearts all along.
Yeah. Steve, so if you want to make a fight easier, just kill your NPCs. Yeah, that's right. If at the beginning of a fight, if you just stab a fortune hunter, immediately one of the opposition will also die. Yeah,
sounds about right.
Because the universe is just that fair.
Yeah, because Matt will definitely stat fights for the amount of people we have.
Oh yeah,
not the amount of people we should have were it not for our own stupidity.
Yeah,
definitely happen.
I wouldn't
you
feel
could
like that.
You could play it off as you stab one of your friends as a sign of dominance, and that intimidates one of the enemies.
One of the enemies is like, I'm not fighting these fuckers. Yeah.
I'm not going down to a standard bad guy power move.
That role would be second only to strength plus bureaucracy in terms of ridiculousness.
That's still my proudest roleplay moment. Next. He said, clicking away from the 42. Steo's new business cards: Sinkhole Hero, Master of Long Shafted Spears and Tongue.
Even I was hoping that wouldn't show up twice. I was kind of like, fingers crossed, John's just not going to pay any attention to that. And
I saw that comment when it went in, and it just gets worse the more you let it sit there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want it. I don't like it.
Well, maybe you should have been a bit more careful with your tongue, Chris.
See, I just gave a meaningful glance.
I'm still pretty impressed that I on the spot came up with a series of statements I could make to the elf whose name we now know, but I've just forgotten, which would stand up in court for allowing us to go to Symbar but not get in trouble for it.
Sure.
It is worth also pointing out that we're all looking at Chris about how horribly embarrassed he is about this, but Mike was the one that said it.
I've spoken about my deep regret for this already, and also we can blame Matt for giving it more significance with that appalling, dirty look that he gave.
Hope someone clipped that.
It was just a look. If you interpreted it as dirty, that says more about you than me. Yeah. Moving on. Sam can't think why Matt wouldn't want us to have grenades. Hmm.
In fairness, probably due to the sheer amount of battlefield math it involves.
That's fair.
I don't know. They complicate things briefly, but then make them a lot simpler after that. So, I don't know. Yeah. Anything else?
I think that is everything.
There we go. I actually liked this in reference to our mid-season flashback thing of better than.
I was just going to call that out. Yeah,
I like that, Sean. Yeah,
traditional.
See, I get that.
I get anime flashback season.
I get the reference, even though I am staunchly non-anime, not anti-anime, just non-anime. You know, like a kind of.
Which is why we haven't had a beach episode. We also haven't had a sports tournament episode.
Chris was making rumblings about running a sports anime one shot at some point, and that's kind of vanished.
I think I have most of
no one signed it. I don't think anyone signed up for it.
No, two of the people on this screen signed up for it.
Two of the people on the screen signed up for it. Okay.
There is a chess anime, and I'm happy to draw heavily from it.
Okay. See, in my head, every sports anime is volleyball. I don't know why. Maybe I've been.
Soccer's quite common as well.
I think reading hilarious Dead or Alive video game reviews early in life, affected me in some way. Lowen would like a musical episode. Well, there's one person in the group who could help make that happen.
There's at least two.
Is there? Oh, of course, Steven does music as well.
It depends on how far you're willing to stretch the definition of musician, but yeah, sure.
Sure.
I'll bring my kazoo.
I mean,
hey,
how many...
Back in the day, I'll have you know I was in bands that were relatively untalented.
Yeah.
I guess the metric is how many people in the stream have something published on Bandcamp.
There we go.
You do?
Chris does. There we go.
I don't think I do. Do I? No, I don't.
I don't know.
I think
it was your heyday before Bandcamp.
I was a long time before Bandcamp.
A long time.
I'll have you know. Yeah. I was passing out sheet music that I'd hand copied.
I own, I think, 3 or 4 printed, fully professionally printed CDs by Christopher.
Chris owns 300 or 400 of them.
We'll not go any further. Not go any further, lest we are borderline doxing Chris here. So let's move away.
I don't know. I think you've narrowed it down to middle-aged, unsuccessful musicians from the 90s, 2000s region.
How many of them were there? Yeah, sure. Look, especially in your chosen field of skiffle, there were so many. So anyway, right, let's move on. Thank you for watching, everyone. No Symbaroum next week because I am on non-holiday holiday. But Vason will be going ahead, and you'll have Dungeon World this Saturday too. So please do enjoy that, and take care and stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.